All right, welcome back, Red Door family and friends. We are joined today for a highly anticipated video interview with our head of short term rental, Rebecca Taylor. Rebecca, how are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you guys?
I'm very well, Mike. Everyone knows Mike. He's the broker owner here at Red Door Property Management. Joins me on 90% of the video content that we put out. Mike, how are you doing?
Excellent. Rebecca, may I just say you look beautiful and extra thin today. You look amazing.
All right. I don't know if we can say that on camera,
You're
but
fired. You're fired.
this is awesome. Everyone is always asking for more information on our short term rental management as well as insights into the short term rental markets. Every investor who considers themselves an investor is looking at the short term rental side. What are the trends? What are we going to get into? We're going to provide as much information as we can on both of those points. So if everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and jump in. We'll jump into the first question and we'll see where this ride takes us. Is everybody ready?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. All right, here we go. The most surface level question I think we could probably ask is there any insight into the key differences between managing a short-term rental and a long-term rental? And let me also highlight as we get into some of these questions, some of the market information is going to be provided by myself and Mike. We are kind of the market experts, as everyone knows, because everyone here is in tune with our market reports. And then Rebecca's going to kind of give us some insight on the management side and what's Red Door's process is. She's an expert in decorating, providing suggestions on what needs to be provided for a short-term rental. So that's kind of the insight we're relying on Rebecca today. But we knew that this was a high demand video, so we're jumping into it here today. So what are the key differences from managing a short-term rental against a long-term rental? Mike, any insight? Rebecca, any insight?
I would say for me, it's completely 100% different, and I wouldn't even compare them. That's just my perspective of it. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows they are absolutely completely different beasts. The type of involvement on the long term side is heavy, right? If you want to
Mhm.
maximize your ROI, your involvement on the long term side is so much more than certainly a new investor is probably going to anticipate. There's so much you have to educate a new investor. It's awesome when you get an experienced investor that calls in and has some experience in the industry, but compared to the short-term rental side, you're absolutely right. It's completely different. It's
Yeah.
so much more hands-on. It's completely different from day one all the way to actually generating a return. Mike, any other additional insight on any key differences?
I have tons of thoughts on this. So it is a different, almost a different industry. I tell people
Mhm.
who are thinking about getting into it is that you are now in the hospitality industry. Like we
Exactly.
Right.
are landlord tenants here on the long term side, but when we start talking about short term, you are in the hospitality industry. You are like a hotel, and you need to think about it like that. The time frames are completely different. Like for example, if we have a hot water heater that's out in a long term rental, that is urgent, but it's not an emergency. So we need to get to that very very quickly. But if it takes 24 hours or 48 hours, or if it's the weekend, it's not necessarily technically an emergency. We may push that until Monday until we can get somebody out there so we don't have to pay overtime rates. If
Mhm.
that happens at a short-term rental, that needs to happen. That needs to get fixed instantaneously. If there's somebody staying there for 2 days and for 24 of the 48 hours, they don't have any hot water or no air or whatever the problem is, that's not going to work. Those time frames don't work. So everything is accelerated in terms of time frames, in terms of expectations of the guests. And then in addition to, there's just so much more. Like for example, on long-term rentals, we may do one move-in a year, maybe two if something crazy happened. On a short-term rental, I mean, we may have 70, 80, or 90 check-ins, check-outs. I mean, so that's, you have to clean it, you have to inspect it, you have to do all the things. It's like between 70 and 100 times per year
Yeah, you
instead
have
of
to
just
treat it like a move in, move out. You have to document damage. You have to document what needs fixed from just wear and tear. You have to document um, supplies, all those things. And it happens over, like Mike said, 60, 70 times a year. So it's completely different.
Yeah, you're doing like a mini turn every 3 days. I mean, if something
Yeah.
happens to get fixed, if you need to order something, I mean, it's a lot more intense.
And we're going to double dip into a lot of information here, but I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that's also why the fee structure is so much different, right? Because
Yep.
all of
Mhm.
those things require so much more manpower, so much more management in the vendor relationships,
Yep.
trusted, reliable vendor relationships. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely surface level on what the differences are between a short-term rental and a long-term rental, but that is absolutely some of the biggest differences in a long-term rental and a short-term rental.
And if I could just add one more thing, long-term rental is a Monday through Friday, unless, like Mike said, something catastrophe happens, we don't have air or whatever. But a short-term rental is a 24-hour, 7-day a week. You have to be available. It doesn't matter what you're doing, where you are. If somebody can't get into a home, that is completely unacceptable. You have to be there to like walk them through. Maybe the lock battery died, or maybe it's offline. Some things that you can't avoid on your own, but you have to be available and you have to be ready at all times.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that before we move on to question two, because that is, yeah, that may be the biggest
Yeah.
difference. It's a 24-hour. You need to be available because that's going to correlate to your reviews, and everyone who's even thought about an Airbnb knows that the reviews absolutely have an impact on your overall return,
They will
right?
make or
So
break you.
it will make
Absolutely.
or break you. Yeah. All right. Let's jump into. Let's try not to spend too much time, and I'll do my best not to ramble on as I sometimes do. But let's jump into staging and decorating the unit. Now we'll try to put this in chronological order from as if we acquired the unit, and now we're thinking about staging and decorating it. So what are, and I have some thoughts on this as well, and Mike, I know that you will too, but what are some quick wins in terms of staging or decor that would make a short-term rental stand out against maybe someone else, another short-term rental down the street?
Pictures, definitely pictures. If you look online right now, 9 out of 10 Airbnbs look cheap, unfurnished, cold. So I would say definitely pictures, knickknacks, as silly as they are, like fake plants, rugs, just things to really warm it up and make it like feel homey. You're definitely trying to achieve like a nicer home than what most people have, so that they do feel like they're like on a vacation or they're doing something
Mm,
special. They're spending all this money, and maybe their home isn't. Nobody's home is 100%. But the Airbnb needs to look 100%. It needs to look like you can Instagram it, you can take pictures. It needs to be beautiful, basically. So I
I
would
love
say
that.
definitely decor.
That's stellar advice, and I'm going to steal that on my next call. It's like, yeah, you want it to feel like a vacation. What
Yeah,
what better explanation can you give someone for not using their grandma's couch that they inherited that's got holes all in it that the dog's been rummaging in for 20 years? Because you want them to feel like they're on somewhat of a vacation, even if they're in the Midwest here in the middle of Indianapolis. Yeah,
exactly.
yes,
Because
that's
they are, and that's only fair to them that they're paying for an experience. I mean, yes,
yeah.
they're paying for housing and all that stuff, but we want to make it nice. We want to make it why people want to give you a 5-star review. It's got to be kind of that wow factor.
Yeah. So is there a downside if I were to put real plants in my short-term rental?
Yes, I'm not going to water them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. That's what I
No,
thought.
there are some people that like that, and there are some special exceptions that have been made in the past, and it was a mistake. I feel like the recipe for a good Airbnb or short-term rental is going to be consistency and what you can picture online, and then what they're going to see when they walk in. Because there's nothing more disappointing than they see this big lush, tree or whatever it is, and then they come in and there's nothing there because it
Hmm.
has died or somebody, didn't take care of it, and it's just like the expectation of you can't have it all, and so to have a representation of a plant that's not real, that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is an investment. Low maintenance means
Exactly.
lower costs. So yeah, you don't want to send somebody out once a week to water your plants.
Exactly.
So I mean, this kind of jumps into the next question a little bit, and we probably already covered it, but here I am going to ask it: what common decor mistakes? Is there any obvious mistake you walked in and you're like, oh my gosh, there is? I'm not going to mention an example because I don't want to offend anybody, but I want you to do that. You be the offensive one. What have you noticed that is like, oh my god, that's got to go today?
Okay, I will tell you 100%. It's your old furniture. I know, and I've done it, and I've been a victim to it. When we started our first Airbnb, I was like, I want a new couch, I want a new bed, take this, do that, put it there. And it's an excuse to buy new things. But you really, really, if this is going to be an investment in a business, it can't be personal. It has to be new furniture. It has to be timely furniture. It has to be clean and unsmelly. And your couch, because it was good enough for you, doesn't necessarily make it good enough for an Airbnb. And I think we see
Yeah,
this in like long term, like even in real estate. It was good enough when I lived there, and you put your house on the market. Well, no, you fix it. You fix the cabinet door that's been hanging off for 20 years. All those things. You're not going to give your old ratty pillows, your bedding that's all mismatched, just anybody's old stuff that's really actually old and like needs to kind of go. That's my biggest mistake. It's my biggest pet peeve. It's very
Yeah,
frustrating.
your decor decision should be based on education you've obtained that results in a higher return on your investment. And that's exactly what we're trying to provide everyone who's watching this right now. So listen up. I mean, this is going to make a difference in your overall return, which hopefully that's why you're getting into the Airbnb business, is because you're trying to generate one.
And I
So
would say this, I would say it is a lot less expensive than you think. There are certain key pieces that you should put your money into, but it's really not unaffordable. It's not unattainable to do a whole entire home with new stuff.
okay, all right. I don't want to get into that yet. We'll get into
Okay.
price just a bit, because that part I'm kind of looking forward to. So, all right, here we go. We're going to jump out of the staging and decoration. I think we get it. It's important to make decisions that, and I think you put it beautifully, that make the guest feel like they're on vacation. So it can't be grandma's ratty old couch. Okay. All right. Furnishing and amenities. What are some must-have furnishings for a successful short-term rental? So, and what might get overlooked? And this can go from anything in the living room to, I know some big items is provide reading material, provide books, and maybe I'm stealing what your explanation here. So I'm really good at that, Mike will tell you. But and what kind of items might need to be provided in the kitchen? And I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, so for me, I'm a full on everything needs to be there kind of person. So I like to cook. A lot of people don't like to cook, but when you are renting an Airbnb and you're renting like this larger home for a reason, usually, and it's usually because you're going to prepare dinner or you're having people over. So I feel like the biggest mistakes people make and the key things are a full working kitchen, meaning not your old Cuisinart that is all scratched up that you threw in the under the counter because that is gross. These people are cooking, they're looking for an experience, they're looking to have fun, let go. Maybe they're there for Thanksgiving, maybe they're there for a tournament or whatever it is, and you're going to grill out. Make sure your grill is clean. Make sure you have grilling tools. Make sure you have pots and pans and enough plates for however many people stay in your home. In addition to that, I would say seating is incredibly important because people are there to gather, to get together. Of course, your beds and stuff are important. That's a give me. But for me, it's like, are there enough places for people to sit? Are there enough places for people to get cozy? Are there some throw blankets? Are they clean? Are they not disgusting? Are the throw pillows nice? Do you not feel like cringy when you sit down? I think those are the biggest things to make somebody feel comfortable and like, I mean, luxury is kind of the word I like to use, like luxurious, like, oh my gosh, I'm in somebody's beautiful space and I'm having a great time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So those are some kitchen items. Is there any other item? And before we jump out of the kitchen, I'm going to ask this, and then we'll go into other areas of the house. But one thing that I've seen on several Airbnb reviews is when you provide seasonings for the kitchen.
Oh, okay, yes. So my biggest thing too, I also, if we're gonna talk about those type of amenities, I want everything to be fully stocked and easy. So that you're not coming into the house and you're like, oh, I have to go to the grocery store, I have to get this,
Yeah.
I have to get that. So what we include, and I would say number one is the silliest thing, but people love are snacks. So you get
Yes.
off the road, you get into the house, the kids are running around, you're trying to pick rooms, and there's a big bowl of Doritos and Rice Krispie treats and popcorn and all the things that you just like you can shove in your face, get your kids to be quiet. That we get the best responses on that. We get the best reviews on that. And then second to that, we provide coffee, laundry pods, dishwasher pods, paper towels. It's stuff that like you would think on the surface it would add up and it would cost so much, but it doesn't. It really doesn't, and it affords this feeling and this like oh like kind of relief for the guests. Like we hear that all the time, like oh my gosh, it had everything you could imagine. It had all these amenities. It had things that we didn't have to go to the store for: coffee, coffee creamer, sugar, Splenda, all the things. And they don't get used, they don't get taken. Like people always say, oh, somebody's going to steal all my laundry detergent. It doesn't happen. I've been doing this for 3 years and it's never not once been cleared out. So I think those type of amenities are so impactful.
Okay, that's good. Oh, and I have to mention this. I mean, and I'm sure most of the people that are watching this can relate. Snacks are the key to my heart.
I
Okay,
know.
if you
Obviously.
want me to rebook your unit, one sure way you can do that is leave me a Rice Krispie treat sitting right there on the counter. I'm guaranteed to rebook. I love that. That's great advice. All right, any other rooms? Any other things that I don't know? Nothing really even jumps out at me. Kitchen is like the one area when
It
I'm meeting
is.
with a new owner, yeah, that you really need to make sure is stocked. Throw you mentioned throw blankets and things like that, which is probably one that could easily be overlooked. So I love that idea too. Everything else in the rest of the house, to my amateur understanding, is probably pretty standard. Yeah.
I mean, it is and it isn't. If you the way I kind of set it up is like if I'm going to be laying in the bed and there's a charger sitting right there, I mean, how cool is that? Like, you don't have to
Hmm.
worry about it. So you get a lamp that has like a charger and it's a cord. And yeah, somebody's going to take your cord every now and then, but I mean, what are they, 10 cents? It's like those little type of things, or, like there's shampoo and conditioner in the bathroom. There's some, we use like, cotton swabs, Q-tips, all that is just sitting there. And it's like, yes, it's easy to overlook, but it's also so nice when it's there. A couple of little amenities that we use that are blow people's minds. We always have children's dishes, children's cups, sippy cups, and then we have a couple of pull-ups, or we have a crib. Little things like that. That's like, oh man. I mean, as parents, we've all been at a hotel or something and we forgot a diaper, or
Yeah.
for kind of like the older, that 3 to 5 year old where maybe they just kind of pee the bed every now and then. But you have that there, and it's like, oh my gosh, one, it saves your bed, it saves your linens, it saves your mattress, but two, it like provides this like concierge feeling for the guests. We get that all
So
the time too.
do you find any owners that currently work with Red Door or otherwise that have been resistant to providing that? Is
Mm-hmm.
trying to explain? Is because I really want to use this content for education purposes, obviously for our own owner base. Have you found them resistant? Have you been able to convince them? Because to me, it seems like a no-brainer. But I've been in this business for 20 years. Yeah, if you're traveling, you want to consider the things that you often forget when you're traveling. Damn it, I left my cord at home. I'd give anything for a charger. Oh my God, there's a charger. You're in love with this
Right.
place already. So
It just
have you
makes your
found
life
that?
so much easier. Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people out there that are really they're more focused on the bottom line versus the experience, and the better the experience, the more you're going to make. So we've had owners that say, you leave out 2 dishwasher tabs, you leave out 2 laundry things and 2 trash bags, and it's like, what are you saving? You're just
Yeah.
annoying people. They're going to have to go to the grocery store, they're going to spend an extra $12, and you're making their experience difficult. You're making it work versus like, you walk into, let's use a hotel. I mean, that's pretty much who we're comparing ourselves to. And there's a coffee maker and there's, some K cups and stuff, and you can get as many as you want. It's not like they're going to use 72 dishwasher tabs, and they're also not going to take them. But it's this feeling of abundance versus this feeling of, oh gosh, how many paper towels do we have left? And, how many paper towel rolls are in the house, or toilet paper rolls. I mean, like, that's kind of where it's more of a hospitality than it is a service. Like long-term rental is a service. This is more like you're hosting somebody. I think the art of hosting is really where it comes in. How do you want to make your guests feel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that you feel more welcome when you have all that stuff versus you open up the thing and it's like, okay, well, I have 2 trash bags and 2 dishwasher tabs. Gosh, I better be real conservative about how much stuff I use. You just feel kind of unwelcome. And
You
so I don't
you feel like um what's it called? Like when people like take your money from you. What's it called? What's the matter with me? Like nickel and dime. That's the word. Like, you don't want to feel
Yeah.
nickel and dime. Like, you're spending this money, regardless of how much it is, and you don't want to feel like, okay, now I have to go spend another $50 at the grocery store. So we have like aluminum foil, saran wrap, like every, like you said, spices. We include those in every home. We have like a little bucket that says this and that, where there's like ketchup packets and mayonnaise and mustards and just little stuff that you maybe don't, like you said, you don't realize that you want, that come up. And I feel like people, I mean, you can go overboard, and some of our houses we have razors and toothbrushes and just like the disposable ones, just a couple of those we lay out. And but people, like, when they need it and they use it, you'll like see it in your reviews. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you can avoid a guest having to consider some of what we all have to consider in our daily hassle of our lives, changing the trash bag, or oh my gosh, I only have one left. I better be conservative. If you can eliminate those small considerations, I would imagine that has a big impact on their
And I
stay.
will say this, I will also include, when you do leave those type of things, you have a much cleaner home, and you have a much,
Yeah,
it's more tidy. Like, if you have, 2 dishwasher tabs, they're not going to run the dishwasher. If they're, maybe they're
yeah,
there for Thanksgiving, they're going to go get them. But if they're not, you're just going to have dirty dishes. Or if you
yeah,
don't include like your, Lysol wipes, or, all the cleaning supplies, then you're just not going to have a clean counter. People will
yeah.
tend to, like, pick up after themselves, sweep up, but if that stuff isn't available, then they're not going to go out and, make an effort for it, which they shouldn't. They shouldn't have to.
Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time on this question, but I have to mention two other ones that I know are super important. I think, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong. Is how about reading material, games, other amenities like that? It's important to provide those, and does that change your, I don't know, your exposure on Airbnb, VRBO, any of those?
Right. As I was about to say, I don't really hear too much people using them. I mean, it's rare that I'll hear, like, oh, the games are great, whatever. But it doesn't change your exposure, because what you want to do on Airbnb or Verbo, any of those outlets is you want to be able to click your amenities, and the more amenities you have, the higher up you'll rank. So the way we do it, games are actually shockingly expensive to be cost effective. We go to Goodwill and we
Hmm.
get 20 games at $1.99, $2.99, and you can also use them as decor too. We do that a lot.
Great
And you
advice.
put them in your shelves. It looks bright, it looks fun, and then you can say we have games. And then people sometimes use them, but mostly they don't. And I think
Yeah.
especially with reading material. But we have, again, Goodwill. We go there. We have kids, so we just pull our children's books out and you just line some shelves up with them. You have them there. I don't know how much they get used, but they're there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. You know what? I do. I have to add a couple more before we move on. All right. How about a grill or a fire pit? Do those get
absolutely,
used? These are just common
absolutely.
questions I see. I wouldn't feel right if I moved on without addressing some of these other ones that I know people are going to be curious about. Okay. So go. So a grill, a fire pit?
Fire pit's probably going to be more hassle than it's worth, because are you providing the wood? Again, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Are they going to have to go to the grocery store and find some wood and blah blah blah? If you obtain a house, like we have a house that has a fire pit because it was there when we bought it, so we do have some Adirondack chairs around there, and we have a little bit of wood there. We don't like use that as like, oh, hey, rent this house because of the fire pit, but
Hmm.
outdoor seating and an outdoor grill, absolute must. And I don't know if it's the Midwest, and we cater to like people that come for games or family reunions or weddings, and so they do have people over and they grill out and all those things. 100% a must.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will say we managed one or two without a grill, and we would get the question all the time. We would get complaints all the time that they didn't have a
Hmm.
grill. Super disappointing, and or we didn't get the booking because they didn't have a grill. So I would say yes, must have is a grill.
And especially if they forget to see if there's a grill and they
Yeah,
get there, oh my gosh.
people just expect it.
Oh,
Really, people
Yeah.
expect it.
And with
okay.
that, you're going to have more than one propane tank. So know that as well.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. And the purpose for that, just so people understand, is what for exchanging in between guests, so
Yeah,
making sure.
exactly.
Or
You
if
always have
one
to have
runs
an
out.
extra one. Exactly.
you really
Yeah.
need three to be ideal. Because I mean,
Hmm.
you can't have the guests run out and then they have to exchange it. So I mean, our maintenance staff stays on top of it, but there's got to be some wiggle room there.
Yeah, you have to have the extra. I mean, imagine you buy $400 of meat and you're out there grilling and you have no propane. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
how mad would you be?
Oh no, I'd be pissed. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
furious. No, that's no bueno for sure. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're moving on. This is going to be a big one. This is going to be something a lot of people are going to be curious about. What kind of budget are we expecting? Now, look, I've laid out for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath just to keep this somewhat of a concise conversation. But what kind of budget should an owner expect? They just acquired a property. They've done whatever maintenance might be necessary. They've touched up paint. They've replaced floorings. But as far as furnishing from the ground up, what kind of budget are we looking for? 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot.
1,600 square foot. I mean, you could do it anywhere between 15 and 30, depending on your market. It's not it's not an exact science, and there's definitely times that you need to splurge, and there's so many more though that you can actually save money on. But like if I acquired say $1 million house downtown Indy, same square footage, I'm going to
Mm,
put a little bit more money into it versus a home like, let's say you're in Carmel or Zionsville, somewhere like that, where you can probably get away with a little bit less in your budget. I think that everything right now, though, it's so much more affordable than people think because of your Amazons, your Wayfairs, your
mm.
dupes, all those things. And it's like, I feel like all of us, when we built our first home or moved into our first home, we like, we thought, oh, a couch was like $6,000. And we just had this like expectation it's going to be so expensive. And it's really shockingly not. I mean, you can get a really nice couch for, $600. You can get rugs for $100. You can get artwork, you go to your Home Goods or whatever. And it does take a little more work to like kind of find the deals, but it's definitely can be done affordably. So I would say anywhere between 15 and 30, depending on your taste and kind of what you're looking for.
I mean, that's good to hear. If there's anything, and I appreciate you mentioning that, if there's anything that's sure to spark debate in the comment section here, is that you mentioned things are affordable, because all I hear is things are so much more expensive than they were the prior year. So here you hear it from Rebecca, the expert in the industry. Things are affordable. You can find the deals out there if you know how to look for them. And if you don't know
Right.
how to look for them, you can hire us. We'll put you in contact with somebody who does know how to look for those deals and can set you up the way that you should be.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving right along. What kind of, now we talked about furnishings and stuff. What we didn't really cover yet is what kind of tech items, and I know this is huge for me, and I know this is big for Mike too. What kind of tech items? We have a couple requirements that Red Door must have in order for us to manage your property. whether it be because they're the least glitchy, but primarily so that the service we're providing is streamlined. So that when a guest has trouble getting access to the front door, our team needs to know exactly what kind of lock is there, what type of troubleshooting issues, because we can't be searching online for troubleshooting issues when someone's outside the door at 9:30 at night trying to get access because you have a different brand. So that would be the reasons we have requirements for some of the things when I have conversations with the owners. But what kind of tech items would you suggest? What type of tech items would you insist on having in your Airbnb?
I'll touch on this slightly because I know this is Mike's hot button, but I will
Yeah, yeah.
say I know as an owner, I get it. It's frustrating when, let's say, you have a Nest or a Ring camera or whatever your brand is, and we use something else. I can see the frustration, but it is imperative. Like, I have to be able to pick up my phone, open my app, and unlock your door. And
Mm-hmm.
it just is. I mean, it's just kind of the cost of doing business. I know we say that a lot, but like, we just have to have that access to your camera right away or to your garage door. And so I think that for me would be the consistency across. And then of course, blazing fast Wi-Fi. I'll turn it over to Mike because this is his baby.
Yeah, and I guess this is maybe a little bit of a two-part question of if Red Door is managing it and or if you're managing it yourself. Just to kind of echo Rebecca's point that if we are managing it for you, it's about having a consistent product for us and for having our team to be able to quickly resolve any problems. And if we have to oh, I got to remember so and so's Google password to get in there to do that, unfortunately, it just doesn't work for us. So we need to have systems that are easy for us to use to allow us to manage the guest more effectively. So, but in general, you have to have a super easy to use front door lock. That's probably number one. You cannot have people struggling to get into the home with your front door. It needs to be super easy to use, super reliable. Worst case scenario, you could pull it up on your phone and unlock it, at the drop of a hat. So we use the Schlage On Code for that. That's the brand that we use. We found that to be the easiest, the least sort of glitchy, and our software supports it. You can pull up, it has an app. So overall, that's been a really good product for us.
And we're
Cameras.
not even being paid for that, by the way. No ad.
No affiliate link, no nothing.
Yes, maybe we should have our team reach out to Slug before we
We
start
should.
putting that out there. But sorry to interrupt.
We
That
should.
is not a paid ad.
We should. The other thing is cameras. And if you're managing it yourself, of course, you can use whatever. The brand that we use is Arlo. It's a good combination of value and good product. Again, easy to use software. All of that really matters quite a bit. So I would say at the very minimum, you need one, depending on how big your home is and the location of your home. But you need to have one at the front door, one at the back door. If you have a big house or a big driveway, definitely you want to be able to see the driveway, see how many cars are parked in your driveway. So have good visibility. You don't need to see absolutely everything, but at least front door and back door. We also do Arlo doorbells, which adds another camera. It's basically what it is, just another kind of less expensive camera up for the front. Like Rebecca said, the fastest internet that you could possibly get is what you need. If you can get gigabit, get gigabit. We also use a noise prevention monitor, which actually the newest version is really slick. It monitors the noise at the Airbnb, so it sits in there. It looks like a little smoke detector, but it measures the decibels coming from the house. So if somebody's having to get together, you're going to get an alert, or we're going to get an alert once it exceeds whatever the decibel level is that you set. The newest one also tracks how many cell phones are in the area and on your Wi-Fi. And it also has a smoke detector in it as well, and a vape detector. So if somebody is smoking in your home, you will get notified of that, in real time instead of, after they check out.
But to be clear on that one, though, let me just
that?
go back to that one. There's absolutely no recording. There's absolutely no way to hear what's going on in there. So we get that a lot from guests. If they see it, they read down to the details, and it's like, well, you're going to record me. There's absolutely no cameras in the house. Anywhere that looks into the house, there's no recording of it. It's just simply decibels. If it ratchets up, then they can have music playing. We don't even know what it is. It'll just tell us, hey, there's some loud noise going on. So there's no breach of security there. There's no breach of privacy on that.
And which I would imagine would then spark the attention of anyone who's able to pull up those cameras. Okay, we've got a high decibel level.
Mhm.
What's the next course of action? Let's pull up the cameras. Let's see what's
Mhm.
going on. Are there 20 cars out front? If so, then you
Exactly.
escalate it to the next level. We'll get into our Red Doors processes, but I at least wanted to highlight that's the advantage, right? It's not just that you're alerted. Oh well, I guess there's loud stuff, but what happens because you're alerted?
Yep.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
yeah, Mike. Any others you want to finish up on?
Just two quick ones. A smart thermostat, which allows you to control the thermostat from afar. You would be shocked at how many people can't figure out how to work a thermostat, even though they're very, very easy. But sometimes you can take a call and they say,
Okay.
"Oh, it's 70 degrees in here." You can just change it from they had it on heat, you put it on cool, and boom, you're done. So you can solve a lot of problems by being able to do that. In
But do
addition
not
to
lock your thermostat.
what's
Do
that?
not lock your thermostat. That is
Yeah,
so annoying.
yeah,
We have owners that say like, I only want it to be able to go between 70 and 72 during the summer and 68 and 70
yeah.
during the
Don't
winter.
do that.
No, no. We are not there to babysit them. They are there to enjoy the home. We don't lock thermostats.
That's kind of in
Yeah.
the same lines with the two dishwasher pods, kind of the same feeling,
Hmm.
right? You just feel frustrated that you can't have it at 68 if you want it at 68.
Yeah.
Lastly for me is a sound it's simple, but a wireless garage door keypad. Just another point of entry again that you want to do everything you can to avoid a guest being locked out for whatever reason, a power failure or whatever. So it's just another point of entry. So a wireless keypad for the garage door.
Which
Love
I
it.
want to add to that, if you don't mind, Chris, because it's the
Yeah.
exact opposite of tech, but you absolutely didn't have physical keys on
Yes.
property that the
Yeah.
guests can
Ah,
access.
The
This
triple
happened
yeah.
lock.
last night. Yes, this happened last night to me. I got a call about 7:30. Hey, the key lock's not working. So I go on my app. It says it's offline. Well, I can direct her to our little boxes that we have. We put them on the AC. That's where we put them as our company, and they can say, "Hey, go to the side of the house." I mean, it's not ideal, clearly, but they got in within 3 minutes versus sending a locksmith or trying to figure out the Wi-Fi. So you anti-tech, protect your tech with actual physical
Yep.
keys on property.
Yep.
Man, so much valuable information in this little segment that to us it's like it's on repeat because it's things that we know are important. But there's the investors out there, even experienced investors, have no idea about the items that we've just quickly run through. So it's so valuable. And just to go back to your thermostat, I mean, we're at travel tournaments all the time, so we're staying in a hotel or even an Airbnb, but when we're at the hotel, I'm always cranking down the
First
AC,
thing you
right?
do, right?
I want to snuggle in my comforter. I can't
Exactly.
imagine if that son of a gun was locked and I couldn't adjust that thing down overnight. I would freak. I would freak.
That's
Yep.
some of the owner arguments we've had. Like, oh, they wanted at 65. Like, we had an owner that was on her phone turning it back up. So
Oh
they would turn it to
no.
65 and she would turn it to 70. And it just created this drama. And the guests were calling us saying, like, the AC's not working. And so now we're trying to send out an AC tech. We reach out to the owner to say, hey, we need to send out an AC tech. And she goes, oh, no, it's me. I'm the one turning it back up. It's like,
Yeah, and it's important for the owners to understand that we're managing, so it's our reputation that's on the line
mhm,
as well. When they interject like that and start adjusting things, especially when we're not even aware of it.
right.
So yeah, a big no. Don't do that, Mr. and Mrs. Owner. All right. Look. We've covered the furnishing and amenities. There's probably a couple additional ones. If you're watching this and you have a great idea, I would love to hear about it. Throw it
Yeah,
down in the
for sure.
comments. I would love to know more. I would love to research new tech products. So let us know, and we're going to move on. All right, marketing and pricing. So we'll just lightly touch base on some of these. Mike, I know you'll probably have some insight into this at least. All right, is there anything special that we do to handle any off-season for short-term rentals? So we all know the winter time can be somewhat considered the off-season. Is there anything that can be done, should be done in order to keep some cash flow coming in during those off seasons?
Yeah, I would say that we definitely see a dip, but it's not dramatic that I noticed. I mean, it's not as much as in the summer and stuff, but I mean, we are in the Midwest, so we do get tons of family reunions. We get tons of weddings. We get lots of opportunities to host people outside of, quote unquote, vacation season. So, with that being said, I would say that, we do kind of maybe silly, but we offer like Christmas trees. And, if somebody asks, like, oh, can I put up Christmas decorations? Sure, like, no problem. Like, we kind of like let
Interesting.
them use the home a little bit more as like a home versus, like
Yeah.
just a place to stay for the weekend. So little stuff like that, I can say on my end that we do. Mike probably has a lot more on the marketing end. I know that we do lower the prices a little bit as well.
Yeah, so we use, and maybe this is a follow-up question, but we do use dynamic pricing, which does account for seasonality.
Hmm.
But I think maybe above and beyond that, it is being open to different different stays, different time frames,
Different
different
scenarios.
pricing.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, so like we were way more creative, I think, in the wintertime with our stays, and a little bit more flexible with guests and requests and insurance companies, and you get all sorts of weird stuff that comes at
Hmm.
you. And so like if that's July and somebody wants to stay, for 4 days and they're asking for a 20% discount, absolutely not. Like there's no discounts in July. But if it's like, oh well, hey, I'm going to stay for 2 months, and I might need to stay a little bit longer because whatever, I had a house fire. I'm going to give them a better deal and work with them and be more flexible.
Hmm.
And maybe they need whatever a Christmas tree delivered or whatever it is. Just being more receptive and more creative with the reservations as the peak season kind of dies out. You need to be a little bit
Right.
more.
Like for example, our kind of our we'd say our hard and fast rule is no parties, no events, but it's really not. It's really not hard and fast. So I have somebody that's coming. They're actually going to stay a week over Thanksgiving, which is a longer stay for like the wintertime, and they're going to host Thanksgiving at the home. And the reason they're renting the home is because they don't have enough room at like their grandma's house or whatever. So ideally, no parties, no events. But hey, they're having 20 people over for turkey, and then 5 people are staying the night at the house. We're going to make the exception. We're going to let that happen. Um, Bridal showers or stuff like that that we would typically not allow. When it's slower and you're looking for some income and you kind of vet the people out and you see that they have 5-star reviews and it's a pretty reasonable ask, it's like fine, that's no problem. You can have 20 people over for a couple hours and then everybody goes home. So like Mike said, kind of like being creative and bending a little bit.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, a lot of good information there too. And yes, Mike, this is exactly where I was hoping dynamic pricing would come up. I figured that's our best strategy. So let's elaborate a little bit further than that. Also, it'll make a sweet title when we cut this into shorts. Let's talk about dynamic pricing for a second. What is dynamic pricing? Go ahead.
So dynamic pricing is an algorithm. It is a third party software that we use, and it connects and talks directly with Airbnb. And what it does is, I mean, it takes a look at the supply and the demand. It takes a look if there's any events in the area. It takes a look at what other people are getting. It takes a look at the vacancy rates. And it takes, I mean, I don't know how many data points it takes to look at. It takes a look at hotel data to see what they're getting, what their vacancy rates are. I mean, it's super, super, super sophisticated and dynamic.
Hmm.
And then it also takes a look at your historic stuff. What is your booking rate? How far is this out? It takes a look at so many different factors, but basically what it does is puts it into the algorithm and adjusts pricing on, like, literally, I don't know how often it is, at least a daily basis, if not
Hmm.
more often than that. Like for example, if we have Taylor Swift coming up, that's a big event for us in Indy here. That's coming up in I think November.
November.
Um, yeah, so it will look at that and it will say, okay, hey, there's other Airbnbs are getting booked up, the prices are going through the roof, and it's gonna dynamically adjust for that. And so without having to do too much, it's going to stay on top of all of that, and it allows you to get the most out of your Airbnb if there's something special. Or also, what it will do is it will say, hey, you know what, this is last minute and it's a Tuesday. I'm going to provide a discount if somebody's going to book it for me on a Tuesday for the next day, because the odds that we're going to book this up are shrinking.
Hmm.
And so we're going to offer a discount now. So again, it just dynamically looks at those prices and tries to maximize the occupancy based on a pricing fact.
And I would add to that too, like Taylor Swift is a pretty big thing. Everybody knows she's coming, but things that like we don't really pay attention to that you're maybe not interested in, like a car show or Comic Con
Yeah.
or, the fish and boating show or whatever those are that like maybe we don't know about them, but the dynamic pricing does. And so all of a sudden you'll see like this spike and you're like, oh, what's going on? I wonder why. And you're getting the $400 a night when typically you'd get 200. Oh, it's the boat and travel show or something that you didn't even know was going on. So that it really protects you on that. And which is, I can just add this in, is why we don't also allow people to book 6, 8, 10 months out, because you'll miss those type of things. And that's why we keep it kind of a shorter leash. And so that, we had a property that just let anybody book. And so dynamic pricing didn't pick up that in a year is going to be the Indianapolis 500 and you can get $600 a night. And so she rented it for 150 a night. So it's the stuff like that that they can pick up and make sure that it doesn't, you get the best money that you can.
That's huge. That's huge. And so you mentioned Taylor Swift. Sounds like y'all got tickets to go to Taylor
I
Swift.
wish, please.
Whatever I heard, yeah, Mike, it's November 13th at 8 a.m. is when we got to be there.
Nice. Well, I will say we have a house downtown Indy that typically gets good rates, but it's getting, I believe, almost $2,000 a night for Taylor Swift. So it's a real thing. Yeah.
That is insane. Wow, that's crazy. All right, awesome advice there. I think we kind of glossed over a potential hack for maybe the guest. So tell me a little bit about how often we have people reach out and request a discount, and does that work? How often do we have that happen, and how much success do people have when they request discounts?
So a lot. It happens all the time. I would say probably conservatively about 40 to 50% of the time.
Wow.
They'll say,
So if
hey,
you're booking an Airbnb and you're not requesting this on the front end, you might be missing out on an opportunity. Sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
I know, and it's a touchy subject. It's because you at the end of the day, what you need is good reviews. Like that's just what you need to make it better. And so you start off your relationship with a no and like I'm not going to work with you. It gets tricky. Like Mike said, we're pretty hard on May through August. No, we're not doing discounts. We don't need to. A lot of the times I'll get asked about a military discount. Me personally, I do like to give a military discount. I mean, people are giving their lives for us. So, 10%, sure, absolutely. I don't do that across the board for other owners. I will ask their, opinion on it. But you get a lot of people just asking to ask, hey, we're a 4-H club. Can we get a discount? We're, whatever. Oh, this is a lot more than I wanted to spend. So can I get a discount? So you do see that quite a bit. And it's basically depending on how you ask. Are you nice? Is it a good reason? Is it a busy time of year? Kind of all those things. And that's kind of what we do. That's why you have to be ready basically 24/7 to answer the calls. The first person to answer back is going to get the booking.
Exactly.
So you've got to like make that decision. You got to have your teammates that, we don't need, we have, other team members. It's like, well, what if they have to wait 4 hours to get a response from the owner? So we need to be able to make those calls, get them booked. And, if it costs you 10%, it costs you 10%.
Yeah. I love it. That sounds great. I made several notes here. I'm expecting to get at least 10% off my next Airbnb. All right. Got it. Sweet. That was primarily for me. No one else.
Okay.
I don't care
Perfect.
who else sees that. All right. We've covered this many times. I'm sure we're going to cover it again because it's such a massive impact on your ROI. So just a quick question here. What role does guest feedback play in marketing a short-term rental? And I think we've mentioned several already, but any additional items you can elaborate on how you can improve guest feedback? Responsiveness, right?
It is everything to me. Guest feedback is everything to me. I want to know from if they don't like the smell of the whatever, the air fresheners. I think that anything that somebody is going to provide you is something to think about. Now, there are a lot of Karens out there. There are a lot of people that are just complain to complain. They want money or whatever. But there's so much gold in that feedback. Like something that you didn't think about, like, oh, you know what? I didn't think that orange, somebody could be allergic to this. And, maybe I'll take that out or I'll move this or, that rug does need to be replaced. I've walked over it 17 times. I've not really looked down at it, but there is a stain there. Any of those things you want somebody to tell you, and then tell them thank you for telling you that, and you'll get even better response. You'll get even better reviews because you're willing to listen.
Love that. Yeah.
Because you're taking critical feedback, and it's hard. It's hard as, like my personal ones, I'm like, hey, like everything's perfect. I do this for a living. When it's not always perfect, or the cleaner missed something, or, just like to take ownership of it and say, hey, thank you for letting me know. I'll get that taken care of. It just happened last week. Really nice customer guest staying at a home. She was kind of there for a longer time. And she was just kind of mentioning like, oh, do you mind if I just wash this rug? And it was like, oh, no, actually, you know what I did? I Instacarted a new rug. And she wrote back, she gave us the most glorious 5-star review. And she said, it just changed her day. And it was like, hey, we're willing to take responsibility. We're willing to take ownership on the things that, we manage.
That's awesome. And you Instacarted it over there. I mean, as we go through this, there are so many tips and tricks to learn. And then I mean, if you're an owner or investor rather, and you don't have the time to educate yourself on all these nuances that go into an Airbnb, which kind of also are in tune to my original question, what separates a long-term rental from a short-term rental, then that's, I mean, having a management company that is this knowledgeable pays for that 20%.
Hmm.
Just being able to be responsive and know and already have an idea of what a guest experience is going to require. And it sounds like you have a great handle on that. So, all right, let's move on here. Let's get into some performance and challenges. So, just a couple questions here, just because I feel like you might have a story, and if not, it's fine. We can move on. So, is there any specific success story? Because I know that you've staged or participated in staging a lot of the Airbnbs that we manage. Is there anyone in particular that you might want to share? A success story when staging or providing the tech recommendations that led to a significant boost in the rental performance. I think you mentioned one downtown. Maybe that might be one.
Yeah, that's it. The one on Fletcher.
Yeah.
We had a home on Fletcher that we took over, and it was two guys that lived in a house, and they moved out and left all their stuff there and turned it into an Airbnb. It was a hot mess. So we talked to them. We kind of worked out a budget. They were definitely on a low budget, and this was about a year and a half ago, so it might have come up a little bit, but I think we ended up spending about $2,000, and we completely turned this house around. It got more bookings. It was
2,000.
like
That's it.
$2,000. That was it. That was it. It
That's
was
incredible.
it was a rug. It was a new couch. It was white bedding versus all the different leftover bedding that you have. You just turn everything white. It all of a sudden it elevates it. It makes it feel cleaner, crisper. Um, it was just like couple new throw pillows, and I mean we turned that house around a couple $1,000, and it really made a difference. Mike, you saw the before and afters. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought we did a video on it. Maybe we didn't, but yeah, it was like night and day. I mean, you would have thought that was a $10,000 or a $20,000 budget. It was really impressive what Rebecca was able to do with just a real small budget.
And I'll send you some pictures, and maybe Chris could put them up on here to show you the before and after. I mean, it really wasn't some. It was adding, like I said, adding some pictures to the wall, a couple of nice throw pillows. Like it was really not that significant, and it was also though getting the owner to get rid of things. A lot of times there's just things left in the house because you have that guilt. You have that like, oh, I don't want to throw it away guilt.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it was like, no, we don't need this old rickety chair that's sitting on the porch. You know what I mean? Like, get rid of it. It's okay. Let it go. So
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And let's, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get into a little bit about the market. Mike, I'm hoping you've got a little bit of insight into this. Now, I try to keep myself somewhat in tune to real estate, right? I mean, I've been in for so long, it'd be a problem if I didn't. But um, a lot of times when I'm looking at investor forums, there's a lot of discussion around Airbnbs being saturated. A lot of complaints from Airbnb owners. In fact, even a lot of unloading from those who have previously had successful investment properties, and then all of a sudden they're not successful, and they're blaming it on saturation. What do you have to say on that? Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, a couple things. Yes, there's definitely truth to that in the short of it. The Airbnb was the hotness, what, 2 years ago, 1 year ago.
Gotcha.
Everybody
Yeah.
wanted to have an Airbnb. Everyone was starting an Airbnb. And so there definitely was a huge saturation of the market. It was kind of like coming out of COVID. All you hear about was everyone how successful their Airbnb was, and well, that caught on like wildfire, and then everybody had an Airbnb.
mhm.
So yes, the saturation is real. What I will say is, like you, Chris, I try to stay on top of the market. AirDNA is an amazing resource for short-term rental data. I recently listened to a podcast with, I think, their chief economic guy, and he's saying what I think we're really feeling here on the ground is that 2023 kind of stunk as an Airbnb owner. 2024 is going to kind of be a transition year where we're going to see people unloading. Its rents are going to go ultimately down because occupancy will go down, but it's going to be a bit of a transition year. And then 2025 is going to kind of emerge and kind of come back. That's what his kind of projections are. And I believe that. I mean, just from our own small little microcosm here in terms of are owners interested in turning it into Airbnbs? I mean, I feel like a year ago we were having so many more conversations about it
Mhm.
than we are this year, and now they're like, well, I really don't know if it's worth it because it's not. The rates are down, the occupancy is down because there's more, um, and so we're going to see that sell off. We should see the sell off. I think we're feeling it, and then 2025 should pop back up as less inventory, less competition, which should lead to higher nightly rates and higher occupancy. Now, I will say, I do feel like there is a little bit more of a professional product being put out there
Gonna say that
versus
too.
like we were talking about before of, hey, I just moved out of my house and I left all my furniture. That is, and I've said this a hundred times, I've stole it from Richard Furtig, but to me, that's Airbnb 1.0. And I feel like those are the ones that are also getting weeded out because there's so many more people bringing a professional product to it with the new couches and the new everything
Mhm.
and keeping it up and maintaining it. Those are the ones that are going to be more successful, I think, in the 2025 and beyond. Whereas the 1.0s are going to kind of fade away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saving this kind of question until we get into more of Red Door's processes. But since we're talking about the market trends, what do you see happening in the short-term rental industry here in the Indianapolis and surrounding suburbs? Are there any areas that you would suggest maybe focusing on if you're looking at acquiring a short-term rental? I mean, I know the investors that I talk to on a daily basis, their first consideration is the downtown area. Is that where you would suggest? Is that the only area? What insights do you have there?
Um, I will say it's super specific. Downtown, yes, of course. There's a lot going on downtown. Downtown does a great job of attracting tons of conventions. I mean, of course, there's the Colts, the Pacers. There's a lot going on downtown. I will say there is a lot of competition, and you have to be careful where you buy because we've recently cycled through a couple of them in the downtown area because the price point that they had to buy. And it was just saturated. I mean, you couldn't make it work for the nightly rate because literally 5 on the same street are also Airbnbs. So I would say it's just really so specific. You have
Mm-hmm.
to be really, really careful. So I would say downtown, yes, there's a lot of activity, but you gotta
But
you gotta buy
could
right.
I
And
add in there?
yeah,
Right. And I would add in there if you're going to be somewhere like that, like a downtown, you really need to be spot on your decor, on
yeah,
your guest
Up your
services. Like
game.
you have to up your game. Exactly. And you can be extremely profitable. We have a very profitable one on Mass Ave, but it is done to the nines. The owner is completely cool with anything that you need to do to refresh it and all that kind of stuff. So definitely
Nice.
downtown, but you better be on it.
And so this is an owner that doesn't handcuff you. You're able
Exactly.
to respond, and I would imagine you've had a hand in some of the decorations or upgrades done to that property.
I did the whole thing.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Okay.
and he is one of the best owners, and because he gets it, it's a business.
Yeah.
It was his own home before, and he's the only one that I've really been able to see that like
yeah,
can separate that and say
yeah.
like, okay, this was my home, but now it's not. Now it's a business, and that's okay. They're going to scratch my floor. They're going to scratch my wall. Something's going to happen, and it's okay because I'm making so much money off of it.
Yeah, I totally get that. All right, so we've covered the downtown area, and just to keep things moving a little bit, any other areas that you would maybe is downtown first, and other areas are secondary?
I will say it's so specific, Chris. It's really hard to say, "Hey, go buy in this area."
Okay.
I will say we do kind of have a behind the scenes or behind the curtain kind of look at to see, where some of these are successful and some of them are not. And it's to me, it's always shocking where they can be successful. We had a couple in Fountain Square, which for a while everybody wanted Airbnb in Fountain Square. Well, it just doesn't work. The numbers just don't work. So that would be the last place I would look right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Um, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense at all. But then you get some like random ones out in Avon that may work really, really well, just because there's not as much,
Exactly.
and there's demand out there for whatever reason. Like I said, you get so many weird requests, whether insurance or medical related, or I mean, it's hard to just pinpoint one reason that guests are staying there. So I
I would
would say
definitely
I'm
say
not trying to
though,
avoid the subject, but it's hard. It's a hard question to answer.
Okay.
I would say go to the places that don't have a lot. You will
Yeah,
get the most random. Like we have one on the kind of the southeast side, and in a million years, I would never buy an Airbnb. We can't keep it empty to get
That's
maintenance in
the
there.
answer I was looking
That's
for.
how full it is. It's because there's not a lot around. We did a nice job on it. It looks good. It's clean. And people use it for the conventions. They use it for working at the fairgrounds. Somebody's having a surgery. Somebody's mom's moving to town and they need it for a month. Just so many random things that if there's not a lot, you're going to get booked.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. That's exactly the answer I was kind of looking for, because in my experience with the properties that we manage, we have seen surprising success with Airbnbs in some of these more suburban type areas. Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like Greenwood, for example. I mean, haven't we seen some success in Greenwood? Which,
Yep.
why? Right? I mean, it's so far south. It's hard to explain, which I understand why that's hard for you to explain where there's good markets. Noblesville, I think, is a pretty good area, but that's a little bit more explainable. There's a lot of entertainment options in Noblesville.
Right. And Noblesville is Carmel adjacent, which Carmel doesn't allow
Yeah.
short-term rentals. So that
Bingo.
makes more sense. But then you get into the difficulties of the Carmel, the Westfield, the Noblesville, all those areas. Whilst they can be really profitable, you have a huge issue with your neighbors and their HOAs,
Yeah.
and there's all that too. So, I mean, it all kind of balances out. So yeah, maybe you can make a little bit more money in Noblesville than you could on southeast side of Indianapolis. But on the southeast side of Indianapolis, you don't have all those hassles and you don't have all those restrictions. So you can also, do more things and have more people in them. So it's kind of like, just depends.
I know we've had a couple in Fishers as well. What kind of performance have we seen over in that area?
The Fishers one, we do see good, what do you call it, bookings, and we see, it does stay pretty well rented. However, we have a reluctant owner that doesn't want to make the upgrades and changes. So you could get $100 to $150 more a night, and you could probably get 50% more occupancy if we just make some twerks. And we're kind of working through it, and we've seen some success. We've added a couple nightstands and some little things like that. Really improve guest reviews, and when the guest reviews come, then it just gets booked and booked and booked.
Yeah, it changes your occupancy rate. Yeah, I love it. Okay, all right. Well, let's move on. That's a little okay. Moving on here, we've got all right. Now I'm going to ask this for a specific reason, but is there any unique short-term rental property that we've managed and why? And then following this, we're going to jump into some red door processes and move this along here. But I'm kind of curious about this one for a specific reason. Any unique short-term rental property that we manage, and any information you can provide about it?
Okay, so we don't have necessarily because there's those ones like this destination ones. I think those are so cool. Like it's a tree house or it's this, it's that. So we don't really have that. We do have one up north that has a gaming barn. So inside the barn. Yeah, exactly.
We're right here, Rebecca. We're right here.
We have they have like a hockey table, all those kind of hockey table, air hockey table, all those kind of table things, games, and like loungers and a movie theater in the basement. So that one is pretty unique. The upside of that one, it sleeps 20. The downside of that one, it sleeps 20. So you kind of get both sides of it. Like you get a baseball team in there, that's great. But then if you get a bachelor party in there, no thanks. So there's like definitely advantages to having those type of things. I think anything that you could put in to make you stand out is cool. And so whereas we don't have like the luxury of having like a unique treehouse or a unique whatever. I'm always looking for different things to make us stand out in the market. So like 3 of our homes have game rooms in them, and that's just an Xbox, extra controllers, cool like LED lights. I mean, it's super inexpensive really to make it look cool. Some decals on the wall, and I'll throw in some pictures for you to look at. That just makes it like interesting and kind of fun for the kids or fun for that person that you're going after. So if you're going after that demographic, it makes it pretty cool.
So that's our unique experience here in the Indianapolis area. So what I'm hearing now, if you're watching this and you have a tree house out in Eagle Creek Park, we need to hear from you. Let us know. We've got to add it to our inventory.
Yes.
Let's bring you some cash.
Let's go, as the kids say.
All right, as the kids say, yeah. I say that all the time. All right. Okay, let's talk about what Red Door does and the value that we bring, as if we haven't already talked a ton about that already. The value that having the property managed by experts like Red Door is huge. You think you're losing something when you hear about, it's 20% of your scheduled bookings. No, you're going to maximize your value. And the best part is your involvement is absolutely minimal, if any at all. But you do need to be receptive to the suggestions that our management team has. But here we go. What's the protocol at Red Door if a guest damages the property? This is a huge question, and I know this is going to be a hot interest topic for a lot of people watching this. So What's the protocol? You find a damaged coffee table. How do you handle compensation? Any insurances, and go.
Okay, well, I will say things break, so just get over it. You know
Yeah.
what? You're don't leave grandma's dishes there if you don't want them broken because they're going to get broken. Don't leave anything behind. Um, for example, we had somebody leave an ottoman that they got for their wedding present, and somebody scratched it up. Well, why in the hell is an ottoman that you care about so much in an Airbnb? Take it
Mhm.
out. Anything like that, you need to get rid of it. Then things are going to happen. Things are going to get scratched. Things are going to get damaged. It does happen. It happens all the time. You have to kind of get over it. We've said this a million times. The cost of doing business.
Yeah.
It is. So if there's like a big event that happens, we have really good cleaners that they take pictures before and after.
Oh,
So
sweet.
yeah, so all that's documented. So when they go in, the first thing they'll say is we'll start getting text, hey, there's a big stain on the carpet, or hey, there's whatever. 9 times out of 10, the guests are going to say they didn't do it, and there's really not. I mean, there's a recourse of like you can charge their card or you can request Airbnb. Airbnb does a great job. Like if you can prove that they did it, Airbnb will reimburse you. So that's
Mm.
great. That's always helpful. But there are times when you just kind of get stuck holding the bag, and it sucks. But the return you're going to make on just moving on, getting it fixed, getting the next booking is so much more important than fighting and getting a bad review and all the things. Unless again, it's like a major damage.
Right.
And that's definitely going to be covered by Airbnb or whoever, your insurance.
So there is an insurance coverage that you should be acquiring, and that you may have to get involved.
We've not had that happen, thank goodness.
Good.
I mean, we've had, carpets ruined, we've had couches stained, we've had, those kind of things, but they happen. And as long as you kind of realize, hey, I spent $600 on this couch and I've gotten used out of it for 6 months, it's okay maybe to get a new couch. I mean, it's rare that would happen, but those kind of like decisions that you make on the daily and you don't let it affect your psyche, and you know that, hey, you're going to make more money off of making this better and making it look nice and keeping it fresh, then things kind of seem to calm down. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense. I
You just
mean,
have to know it's something, a glass is going to break, something's going to happen. And, like
did,
think about your house and your kids and the things that happen. And a lot of like 99% of the time, it's not malintended. You know what I mean? Somebody's not saying, hey,
I'm not
I
so
can't
sure
wait to
about
stain
that.
this chair. But if they
Well,
do, it's you kind of gotta
yeah.
be smart. All of our chairs are Scotch guarded and they can wash off, or they have removable covers and stuff like that. And if you protect your house like that, like our wood tables, we put glass over top of them, so there's less opportunity to get scratched and to get damaged.
Yeah, yeah, that's super valuable. And then just kind of a follow up question to that, and I know this is probably number two concern from a lot of not a lot of new inquiries is going to be what if a guest throws a party? What's the protocol? And I want to mention kind of the process, and you let me know if it's different with Red Door or how this works. But it's about having some of these tech items that are going
Hmm.
to provide you notification, and then you escalate it as necessary. You pull up the video, is it confirmed that you do have a party? So let's assume that we're there and they've followed our guidance on the tech items, and it's our process to go through that step by step. What recourse do we have at that point? What do we do? Do we
So,
call them? Do we call the cops?
oh, definitely. We try to avoid calling the cops if we can, Chris. I don't know
Sure. Yeah.
what side of town you live on. No, I'm just kidding. No, so yeah, it's happened. It's happened. Happens all the time. Not necessarily like a rager, but a lot of people will come and they'll invite their friends and family, whatever, and all of a sudden it'll get a little bit ruckusy. And 9 times out of 10, it's a check the camera, see what's going on. Um, Quick call to the guest. Hey, we've gotten some complaints from the neighbors or wherever. Is everything okay? You're not having a party, and then it's like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. So a lot of times it's like pretty easy to snuff out. We did have one opportunity where we did have to call the police, and actually we didn't do it; the neighbors did it, and so that stinks. You just don't want the drama. You don't want all the things, but it can happen. But that's why you have a management team that takes care of it. And really, I would say my biggest advice to owners would be stay off the cameras. Let us do it. It's going to happen every now and then, but it's pretty rare. But we'll take care of
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it should almost be a requirement, really.
Yeah, and we do some things that are like preventative. So we don't allow same day bookings unless you
Yep.
have it approved. Because trends show that they'll book at the last minute and they'll throw a party there. So we don't allow that. I mean, that's one of the things to kind of go back to the last subject, that we do bend in the wintertime. Like if somebody asks for a last minute, we'll look into it. We'll see what they're doing. We'll feel
Yeah.
it out. But typically it's a no, because that'll prevent a lot of parties. And then like the sound thing, and then watching the cameras, and all the things kind of goes together. Hopefully that's not a non-answer, but it's kind of
No.
like all the steps that you take to get to that point, and you don't want it to happen, but when it does, we're there. We're on top of it.
Have we had to call the cops, and has that been successful? I mean, do they resolve anything?
Usually it's not us that call the cops; it's angry neighbors.
Okay.
And that's an issue too to think about. That's when I said it could be profitable up in the suburbs, but you're gonna have a lot of issues with the HOA and your
Yeah.
neighbors. Um, it's usually silly. It's usually just like somebody parked on the sidewalk wrong or something like that, and they're just a frustrated neighbor, and so they'll call the cops on that. We've not really had any like ragers at 2 in the morning that we get cops called on. It's usually just complaints from the neighbors.
Nice. Now you have a guest that refuses to leave at their checkout time. What do you do?
That's a tough one. So technically, we can't really do much. It doesn't happen. It's only ever happened one time to us, and it wasn't that they refused to leave at all. They just had a late flight and they wanted to be there later, and we gave them till I think 2 in the afternoon, and our cleaner showed up at 3, and they were still there. So it was just a quick call, and hey guys, sorry you got to go. You can hang out in the living room until they get down to the living room, and then you got to bounce, and it was fine. But we don't usually typically have that issue.
Okay, so it's about discovering it and then
Mm-hmm.
conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
You're working with an expert so that we can do that. We have the ability to have those conversations so that it doesn't necessarily result in a negative review, which absolutely is a big no-no. So you have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation, de-escalate sort of,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
and then get them out so that you can turn the property. Okay. All right, sounds good. We are almost there here. Let me see here. I think the only other one I really am curious about is, and we've lightly covered it. How does Red Door handle um, emergency maintenance issues? So in the middle of the night, I don't know, toilet's not. Maybe you have a better example than I do. Toilet's not working, shower's not working, whatever. How do we deal with that? Do we
We
have?
jump on it.
Can they reach us?
Absolutely. My phone's on 24/7. If it's not mine, it's one of our team members. I usually I'm more of a night owl, so I take the night stuff. Christmas Eve last year, we got a call at 1 in the morning that the home was at 72 and they wanted it at 74. That is not a maintenance emergency. So you kind of have to talk through that and work it out. But, you get a call, a couple weekends ago, it was 90 degrees outside and the air wasn't cooling. You just instantly, you get a tech. And that's just the way it is. Like, you're going to have to go from tech to tech to tech, and that's fine. We have 4 or 5 go-tos that we use, and then you just get somebody out there and get it fixed. Now, it didn't get fixed. It called in around 8 p.m. and it got fixed around midnight on a Saturday. It's not ideal, but we were on it, and we were in constant communication with the guest. We let them know, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's a house, it's a home. It breaks, things break, and you're kind of knowing that you're also getting 3,000, 4,000 square feet, and you're hosting 20 people for $200 a night. So there is that element of like, hey, this is a home. We're going to get it fixed. I've been to numerous hotels where something breaks and they send, maintenance tech. That's just kind of the way it is. And as long as you're receptive, responsive, clear, transparent, 9 times out of 10, people are going to be okay with it. And you do
Awesome.
get those people that are horrible. We were, I don't know, it was a Friday night at 7 p.m. and one outlet in the master bathroom didn't work. And this lady ranted and raved and wrote us a horrible review. And it's like,
Oh, no.
I don't know what I can't really help you at 7 o'clock on a Friday night for one outlet. You know what I mean? Like those little things that you do get, they think they're emergencies that they're not. You just kind of have to work through them.
Yeah, I would assume some of those things are just unavoidable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I was just going to add to that, and kind of maybe even to circle back really to the original question of, we were so quick to say that, short-term and long-term rentals are totally different, and they are, but maintenance is the common denominator. And so, for me, that's one of the big benefits that we bring to the table is that we do have vetted resources of our vendors, and we know who to call. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
Having to hunt around for the right plumber, we know who to call. We're going to call them. We're repeat customers. They're going to give us top priority service, and we can get that taken care of immediately. And so that to me is
At a better price.
yeah, at a better price. All that to me is the huge benefit of also managing 500 long-term rentals in addition to the short-term rentals. It brings that kind of weight with it as well.
I love it. I mean, I think that's, unless you guys have anything else to add, I think that wraps it for us. So I am incredibly grateful for your time. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate you being
Thank
in
you.
here and answering these really tough questions, although some of them are uncomfortable. I know that so many owners that we currently work with, as well as the ones that we're going to work with in the future, are going to find it super valuable content. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, everyone. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. It's a no-brainer. It's obvious why you should already be doing that. This content that we're shooting and providing is so valuable. If you haven't already, jump over to the August 2024 market reports. Some stellar data there as we start approaching the fall season. So check into it. Let us know in the comments anything you want to share, any other advice you might have for short-term rentals or market reports. Let us know. We want to hear about it. Or areas that you think we can improve, which I know is impossible because we're pretty much perfect at this. So let us know. We want to hear from you. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.